Good morning, my Easy Hill family.
Good morning.
I'm going to talk to you about the development of Richmond, the beginning, and where we are today. It takes a village, a history of Richmond. In 1821, after Mexico had won its independence from Spain, military heroes was given large portions of land in California. Don Francisco Castro was one of those heroes that received 17,000 acres in Contra Costa County. The city of Richmond was established on that portion of land that was granted 70 years after his death. The earlier settlers that lived on the land were the Olonian Indians. They were hunters and built shamans along the seashores. Richmond was incorporated in 1905, and the city's charter was established in 1909. In the earlier 1900s, the Santa Fe Railroad established its western terminal in Richmond, in Point Richmond. The Standard Oil Company was also built. The population grew from 2,000 to 23,000 in 2 years. During that time, only about 200 blacks lived in Richmond. Jobs and housing was hard to find because of discrimination. Richmond was lined with movie theaters, fruit trees, big tall buildings along the pathways. Along McDonald Avenue was 3 sets of train tracks that formed a triangle. Santa Fe train, the Southern Pacific, and the Arctic, and the Topeka, and the train tracks. People call that the Iron Triangle, that section of town by McDonald Avenue. One of the first black businesses in downtown Richmond was O.B.'s Freeman's Shoe Shine Parlor at 13th and McDonald. During World War II, jobs opened up for everyone. Henry J. Kaiser recruited blacks from the southern states of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Oklahoma to come and work for the shipyards in Richmond. The black Pullman porters also spread the word about the jobs in Richmond. Black families came in groves. Many found free passage on Henry Kaiser's magic carpet westbound train. The black workers that came were not allowed to share with whites the drinking fountains, schools, public accommodations, and even cemeteries. What the Southern blacks did bring with them was their culture, their food, their soul food, their music, their religion, and some of the established blacks in Richmond was discriminated against them. Shipyard was top security sites, and the work was very dangerous. Most of the blacks worked at the Kaiser shipyard, and many workers died on the home front as in combat. Every shipyard worker had health insurance because of the danger, and had to wear badges into the building because of the danger. There was about 50 related factories in Richmond, but most of the blacks worked at the Kaiser shipyard. A bus with shipyard displayed on its window would drive through North Richmond neighborhood and pick up the blacks to go to work. During the war, Kaiser's mission was to use his power to build the fastest ships in California, and 747 was built in Richmond, and the blacks was a big part of that. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, more blacks migrated to Richmond. United Methodist minister Reverend Charles Ray Jones and his sister Minnie Lee came from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and roomed with Charles Reed family in North Richmond. Minnie Lee later changed her name to Dr. Joyce Elder Rose to become the medical director of the state of Arkansas, and later was named by President Bill Clinton Surgical General of the United States of America. The Maritime Child Development Center created and maintained to enable its women to work around the clock, but did not serve blacks. Blacks began to create a community in North Richmond where housing could be found. They began to settle there despite the racism. North Richmond has the best black-owned dining and entertainment business in the area. The Savoy Club, the Dewdrop Inn, the Pink Kitchen, and more. Most of the businesses were family-owned. The Tapper Inn was the most popular and attracted patrons from all around the bay. And every empty lot in North Richmond was planted vegetables, fruit trees, gardens. Some had even cows and chickens. When World War II ended, most of the shipyard, daycare centers, Industries and businesses shut down. People lost their jobs with no advance warning. Population declined, and businesses relocated. Black men and women were the first to be laid off. So much of Richmond was lost. It took a while for the ferries and trains to come back. Temporary housing was torn down in Richmond. Many black residents were not able to move into what was left. Reverend Gertrude John Williams fought for more black housing in Richmond. In 1949, blacks were able to buy homes in a development called Rochester Village. It became a black neighborhood when whites lost interest in purchasing. All of the streets in Rochester Village were named after black ministers in Richmond. A large number of homes were built in El Sobrante, Hilltop, Brickyard Cove, Marina Bay, and Richmond's downtown city center, and population was growing. Richmond is a city of roots and pride. Many blacks contribute to the growth of Richmond and its foundation. It was the older generation that began to help make this big change, and is still active today. The Shannon Cooper incident figured out a way to help Richmond kids and gangs claim a future without guns, violence, and crime. Dr. Mario Lee's neighborhood family clinic was used all across the country as a model clinic. Dr. Maisha Yates, PhD of environment science, believed that beauty is inspired by the beauty within us. If beauty is erased from the world, something inside of us dies. Frances Albright was the first black woman to apply for work at the Kaiser Shipyard. The Ethel Dotson's historical hotel that preceded the creation of the sleeping cart Porter Union under A. Philip Randolph and C.L. Dellums, who was the strong black East Bay NAACP leader. Blacks were not allowed to share drinking fountains, schools, public accommodations, and cemeteries not until the 60s. Richmond grew from 23,000 to over 108,000 people, and racial discrimination and equality also grew. That set the stage for the civil rights struggle that followed. Some say the movement started right here in Richmond. Dr. Martin Luther King visited Eastern Hill United Church during the early days of the civil rights struggle, invited by Pastor Booker T. Anderson, who was the late husband of one of our black former mayors, Mrs. Herma L. Anderson. Lena Horne also entertained at Kaiser Shipyard No. 3. Lionel Washington Jr., Mayor, Judge George D. Carroll, first black judge in Richmond, who passed away January 14, 2016. Nathan R. Bates, ex-mayor and active city councilman today. Some other elected officials are Gary L. Bell, Bernard Evans, Richard L. Griffin, George L. Livingston, Lionel Washington, Lisa McIntosh, James McMillan, Tony Thurman. During the Great Depression, when blacks in Richmond had nothing, things was really hard. Families had no shoes, homes were plastered with newspapers to keep out the wind and cold, you had little to eat and almost nothing to wear. If you lived on a farm, the crops were sorry. If you tried to sell what you raised, there was no one to buy them. If you lived in town, there was no jobs. Blacks during that time were survivors because they worked and helped each other. Times are hard, but now people do not help each other the way they used to. Today, we're living in a time of uncertainty and change. Unemployment is at its worst. Poverty is on the rise. Crime and gang wars among our youth is increasing. High school dropouts is high. Children raising children, and our family structure has fallen apart. It starts at home. Children don't learn in school how life works. It starts at home. We didn't attend college to learn how to become parents. Our knowledge came from what was taught as a child and through life experiences. We must look for the good in others, and usually you will find it. Richmond's future is not written in a book. Richmond, the future is our hopes and dreams, and it's up to us to make it happen. If you look closer to the past, sometimes you will see the future. Do you remember yesterday when your heart was young and free? Family love was shared by many. The old neighborhood was our learning tree. Children played in the streets without fear. Cheers and laughter was all you could hear. No drive-by shooting, no dying in vain. Eyes was on us from the window pane. Do you remember the respect and fear that we had for our elders when they was near? There was a time or two we broke the golden rule, but time out was never heard of. Our parents from the old school. Do you remember your parents saying, "Be good, my child, because crime does not pay. Stay out of trouble, stay in school. Listen to your teacher and don't be a fool." Do you remember? Thank you.